This is Mac OS Ken.
Notes from Wall Street ahead of WWDC. Texas turns on App Store age verification. And an interesting Apple Music Classical offering. It is Thursday, the 4th of June, 2026. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Notion, an AI-powered connected workspace for teams. Learn more about Notion's developer platform at notion.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by NordLayer, a toggle-ready network security platform built for today's business. Trusted devices, vetted services, password management. There's a lot we know to look for in keeping our system safe. The problem is we don't know what we don't know. NordLayer does. NordLayer focuses on visibility gaps, reducing risk by improving control over network activity. NordLayer works to block malicious sites, risky downloads, shadow apps, and unauthorized tools. It does all of that with no new hardware, no huge setup, and 24/7 support. Check them out today. Get up to 22% off NordLayer yearly plans plus 10% on top with offer code MacOSKen-10-NordLayer at nordlayer.com/MacOSKen. Try it risk-free with their 14-day money-back guarantee. NordLayer, toggle-ready network security built for your business. Get savings on top of savings with offer code MacOSKen-10-NordLayer at nordlayer.com/MacOSKen. Financial analysts who are excited about Apple are excited about WWDC. So guess how financial analysts who are not excited about Apple feel about the event. What do you want first, the puppy upper or the doggy downer? Maybe we'll mix them. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note Wednesday from Goldman Sachs analyst Michael Ng. He's expecting quite a bit from next Monday's opening keynote announcements, including info on the new AI-enhanced Siri with such long-awaited features as on-screen awareness and personal context. He's also looking for a dedicated Siri app to be announced with a chat interface similar to other LLMs. They'll be good enough to drive new hardware adoption in Ng's estimation. Hardware sales might also benefit from Apple's interest in privacy-preserving, lower-cost Edge AI. Services should also benefit, in his opinion, thanks to an eventual flood of new apps created by AI-assisted coding tools, as well as Apple Intelligence developer tools to support new features. Mr. Ng has a buy rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $340. Crossing to the shady side of the street, we find UBS analyst David Vogt. Barron's wrote up some of his thinking Wednesday. Quotes were kind of scarce. Writing specifically about WWDC, the piece has the analyst saying that he and his don't expect the event to be a positive catalyst for Apple shares, and that keynote announcements are unlikely to drive demand absent a surprise. Negative though he may be, I'm not sure he's wrong. Apple's going to announce stuff next week that's not likely to land in consumer hands until September. That's when the world expects the release of blank OS 27, new iPhones, and whatever else Apple has waiting. So much of next week's keynote has been telegraphed, it's easy to see a lot of what's coming as baked in. That said, it's also easy to see Mr. Vogt as a negative Ned. He's got a neutral rating on Apple shares and a price target of $296. That is a little over $14 below Apple's closing price on Wednesday. While the UBS analyst seems to be looking for some big something to kickstart Apple shares, JP Morgan analyst Samik Chatterjee sees next week's keynote as the start of an on-ramp leading to typical outperformance through mid-September. If it's typical, can we still call it outperformance? Somebody's should ask Grammar's girl. Anyway, next week's keynote will be an upward-pointing on-ramp as far as he's concerned. Apple 3.0 ran part of Wednesday's note, quoting that, WWDC should serve as the kickoff point for a more robust launch cadence and associated excitement into the fall product cycle, which in our view is likely to build further through the course of the year as new form factors come into focus, notably the foldable iPhone and a touchscreen Mac expected to be launched later this year. I'm sorry, a touchscreen what now? The note includes a paragraph on anticipated AI announcements next week. After that, it continues saying, with expectations rising relative to execution on delivering the AI features originally promised in 2024, as well as excitement relative to material redesign across the product lineup later in the year, we expect Apple shares to deliver typical outperformance through mid-September. Can we still call it outperformance if it's typicals? Somebody's should ask somebody's. Mr. Chatterjee has an overweight rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $325. App Store age assurance rules kick in today in the Lone Star state. 9 to 5 Mac ran a piece yesterday that had Apple letting developers know yesterday that starting today, developers will have to comply with several App Store age assurance requirements tied to new Apple accounts in Texas. While the news is somewhat surprising, it's not a complete surprise. The piece says Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed SB 2420, also known as the App Store Accountability Act, into law in May of 2025. Originally set to go into effect at the start of this year, it was halted last December when a federal judge deemed the law more likely than not unconstitutional. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has now halted that halt, which means SB 2420 is a go. In anticipation of the change at the start of this year, Apple's already built tools to make developer compliance doable. Those have been around for sandbox testing. They will now need to be put into practice. More info on what's available, what's expected, and what's required is up on Apple's developer site. Apple has turned over its full financials to competition regulators in India. I told you last month of wrangling between the Cupertino Company and the Competition Commission of India, or CCI. Back in 2024, the CCI ruled that Apple had exploited its dominant position in iOS app stores. You know, pulling a Highlander, there can be only one. The company engaged in abusive conduct and practices, according to the CCI. So let's see your finances and we'll figure up a penalty. Apple held back on that, arguing that the kind of penalty India was eyeing could actually hurt the company. India reserves the right to penalize on Apple's global revenue, not just revenue from the subcontinent. Last month, the Delhi High Court said Apple had to turn over its finances, though it forbade the CCI from making a final decision until the middle of next month. That brings us to yesterday, when a piece from the Next Web said Apple has done its part and turned over all the financial records demanded to the CCI. With the financials in hand, the piece says the CCI can now move toward the part that actually matters, whether to penalize Apple, and if so, how much. While we may hear leaks, we're likely a month and change from anything official. Last month, the court told the CCI to hold off on a final ruling until the 15th of July. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Notion, an AI-powered connected workspace for teams, now with a developer platform for building on Notion. You might know Notion as a collaborative workspace, putting your notes, docs, and projects into one place from which your team can draw. What if you could do that really with your projects, though? Not info about them, but running the projects themselves in Notion. You can with Notion's developer platform. With the recent launch of custom agents, Notion became the collaborative AI workspace where teams and agents work side by side. And now their developer platform is turning that workspace into infrastructure on which developers can build. An operating layer where teams and agents do actual work. No more struggling with permissions and licenses, and no more jumping from app to app to app. Notion handles the infrastructure so you can do the work. Learn more about Notion's developer platform today at notion.com/macOSKen. That's all lowercase letters, notion.com/macOSKen to try Notion's developer platform today. And when you use that link, you're supporting this show. That's all lowercase letters, notion.com/macOSKen. Fitting news headed into next week's WWDC. Apple Insider had the Cupertino company announcing its first developer center for Europe on Wednesday. The company says the new state-of-the-art facility will offer developers access to tools, workshops, and one-on-one support from Apple. Landing in Berlin, Apple plans to open the location later this year. Looks like Japan's second biggest city is getting its first Apple store. In another micro story, Mac Rumors says new job listings suggest that Apple is preparing to open its first store in Yokohama. Yokohama is Japan's second largest city by population, according to the report. The company currently has 11 stores on the island nation. If you're one to hang around Apple Arcade, there are some new games to check out today. 9 to 5 Mac ran a piece recently of titles hitting Apple's subscription gaming service today, Thursday, the 4th of June. The new games include Mini Football Legends, My Talking Tom 2 Plus, Coffee Inc. 2 Plus, and Free Cell Solitaire Card Game Plus. Games in Apple Arcade come with no ads, no upsells, and no in-app purchases. The standalone service runs $6.99 per month. It is also included in the various Apple One bundles. And finally today, Apple Music Classical has entered into an interesting sounding partnership. The site Gramophone out of the UK says London's Wigmore Hall is launching, or relaunching, a series of live, digital-only recordings in partnership with the Apple service. According to Wikipedia, the Wigmore Hall is a concert hall in West London. It is considered to have particularly good acoustics, specializes in performances of chamber music, early music, vocal music, and song recitals, and hosts over 500 concerts each year, as well as a weekly concert broadcast on BBC Radio 3. Gramophone says the new Wigmore Hall Live is part of the venue's 125th anniversary celebration. Under a new artist-first model, the report says, Wigmore Hall will pay the full production cost for every release and will take no share of the recording income, passing on 100% of royalties received directly to the performers. The venue plans 4 recordings per year, drawn from live performances at the hall. Those will have a 3-month exclusivity window on Apple Music Classical. I assume that's before being made available for sale or streaming on other services. The first Wigmore Hall live recording goes up tomorrow, Friday the 5th of June, on Apple Music Classical. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by NordLayer. Get savings on top of savings with offer code macOSKen-10-NordLayer at nordlayer.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by Notion. Learn more about Notion's developer platform today at notion.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOSKen at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macOSKen.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
It's still sunny.